Two rooms, two people, two lives, both quiet, both asleep. But while one body rests like a tree rooted deep in nourishing soil, the other coils tight like a wire, curled, closed, defensive. And by sunrise, their mornings couldn't feel more different. One wakes clear, centered, and focused. The other wakes tired and fogged, chasing energy before the day even begins. This difference has nothing to do with income, or caffeine, or even how many hours of sleep they got. It has everything to do with how they spent those hours. Because sleep isn't just a break, it's a broadcast. Every night, your body becomes an antenna, not metaphorically, not spiritually, physically and energetically. It becomes the tool through which your nervous system repairs, your subconscious integrates, and your energy field either expands or quietly collapses. Most people think the way they sleep only affects their health, but in reality, it affects their money, their clarity, their momentum, their ability to say yes to aligned opportunities, and to say no to the ones that drain them. This video isn't about fancy mattresses or bedtime affirmations, and it's definitely not about waking up at 4 a.m. just to prove you're productive. It's about understanding the connection between your posture, your energy field, and your capacity to receive through the lens of time-tested energy principles. So today I'm going to walk you through 5 of the most common sleep mistakes that quietly block prosperity. Not by superstition, but by tension. By the way your body subconsciously says no, while your mind is dreaming of saying yes. These are postures, placements, and habits I've observed for years in homes that always seem to struggle with stagnation. But don't worry, this isn't about shame or guilt, because we'll also cover 3 small alignment upgrades I've seen consistently in the bedrooms of people who thrive. Not people who chase hustle culture, not people who obsess over perfection, but people who wake up with clarity, make sharp financial decisions, and build calm, lasting abundance over time. And the most beautiful part, these shifts cost almost nothing. You won't need to buy crystals, rearrange your entire room, or memorize another manifestation script. All you need is awareness and the willingness to shift one small thing tonight before you sleep. Now, if you're new here, welcome to New Day Mindfulness. This space is where ancient energy meets modern life, where we talk about wealth, not as a number in the bank, but as a pattern in the home, a rhythm in the body, and a language of alignment you carry every day. If insights like this help you see your space and your habits more clearly, I'd love your support. Please give this video a like, share it with someone you know is ready to shift from survival to energetic steadiness, and subscribe. We're close to reaching 2,000 followers, and every single one helps keep this wisdom alive, accessible, and in service of your clarity. So, are you ready to turn your rest into fuel? Because the first sleep posture we'll explore is one I see everywhere, from high-pressure entrepreneurs to burnt-out caregivers. It's the position people naturally shift into when they don't feel safe, even if everything on the surface looks fine. It's the fetal position, and it feels cozy, protective, familiar. But energetically, it shrinks your field. It tightens the belly, the breath, the solar plexus, and slowly teaches your system to prepare for disappointment, for lack, for collapse. Let's unpack why. 5. Sleep habits that drain prosperity. 1. The fetal position. There is a quiet signal the body sends each night, one most people are completely unaware of. It is not a word, not a thought, but a shape. A message encoded in muscle and bone, reinforced over years. That signal is your sleeping posture. And among all the positions people unconsciously adopt, one of the most common is also one of the most energetically limiting, the fetal position. Curled on your side, knees drawn toward the chest, shoulders rounded, belly shielded, This pose may feel familiar, comforting, or even necessary after a long or emotionally charged day. But from an energetic perspective, particularly through the lens of classical energy systems and Feng Shui-informed anatomy, this posture is a contraction of the life force. It shrinks the qi field, particularly around the lower dantian, the energy center located just below the navel, traditionally associated with core strength, vitality, and wealth energy. When the lower dantian is constricted night after night, the energetic repercussions are subtle but accumulative. People often report waking up tired despite having slept 8 hours. They may notice a sense of lack that threads itself through unrelated parts of life, hesitation when it comes to asking for what they're worth, indecision in financial planning, resistance to opportunities that require a bold yes. These patterns don't emerge from nowhere. They are cultivated in the way we hold our bodies, and by extension, the way our bodies hold us. The psychology of the fetal position is rooted in protection. It is the body's instinctual response to overwhelm. From birth onward, curling inward is the posture of preservation. But when this becomes a default, especially during sleep, a time when the nervous system is supposed to restore and expand, what you're really telling the energetic field is, don't bring anything too new. Don't move too fast. Don't open anything wider than I can control. That may feel safe in the moment, but over time, it limits access to momentum, clarity, and prosperity. From a modern metaphor, it's akin to setting your body into airplane mode every night. You may still function, but the incoming messages, the guidance, the opportunities, the creative insights don't land. Your system is insulated, not engaged. What's important to understand is that the fetal position doesn't need to be eliminated altogether. There are days, even the seasons of life, when the body truly does need to self-soothe. But there's a difference between choosing comfort intentionally and unconsciously defaulting to a pattern that suppresses your growth. The solution isn't to force yourself into a completely foreign position, which can trigger its own kind of internal resistance. Instead, begin with gentle adjustments that invite openness while still honoring your need for security. A simple and effective modification is to place a small pillow between the knees. This encourages a widening of the hip space, which energetically corresponds to opening up possibility and receptivity. Then, place another pillow lightly under the chest, just enough to lift the torso slightly and soften the forward hunch. This micro shift in posture begins to restore circulation through the chest and abdomen, regions closely linked to willpower and intuition. Over time, what you'll notice isn't necessarily dramatic, but it is profound. You'll begin to wake up with slightly more clarity. You'll notice that your body feels less compressed, that your breath flows more freely upon waking, that you feel a little less behind and a little more prepared. These are not random improvements. They are the physical indicators that your energetic field is learning a new script, one that says, it is safe to be open. I trust life to meet me. There's a reason high-performing individuals across industries, athletes, investors, entrepreneurs, often invest in optimizing their sleep environments. It's not vanity, it's precision. Because they understand that the state you fall asleep in becomes the software you run when you wake. If you go to sleep in a posture of scarcity, you are far more likely to navigate the next day from a lens of lack. On the other hand, if your physical form communicates alignment, openness, and grounded security, that becomes the starting place for all your decisions, including those tied to money, opportunity, and expansion. In Feng Shui, we say that every object, every posture, and every environment sends a message. The fetal position says, I want to disappear. Receptive side sleeping says, I'm here, I'm safe, I'm ready. It may not sound like much, but that difference in energy is often the threshold between surviving and thriving. between delay and flow, between loss and unexpected gain. This is not about superstition. It's about somatic alignment. Because your body doesn't lie, it remembers, it records, and it rehearses your story every single night through the posture you choose. If your current story includes scarcity, stress, or stagnation, begin the rewrite tonight, not by forcing change, but by inviting space. Let your physical form lead your energetic shift, because when you align your posture with your potential, everything else begins to follow. 2. Sleeping on the stomach. Sleeping on the stomach is often dismissed as a mere preference, a quirky personal habit, or even a holdover from childhood. But from the lens of energy anatomy and ancient design wisdom, this sleep posture is one of the most depleting forms of rest one can unconsciously adopt. It does not simply suppress comfort, it suppresses qi. When the entire front of the body, particularly the chest, lungs, stomach, and solar plexus, is pressed flat against the bed, it collapses the energetic meridians responsible for inspiration, clarity, digestion, and emotional resilience. These aren't just poetic ideas. They are measurable effects that manifest as chronic fatigue, poor breathing rhythms, shallow digestion, and most notably, a reluctance or inability to act decisively in financial matters. In traditional energy philosophy, the front of the body is considered the receiving channel. The back protects, the front receives. When we sleep belly down, we are effectively shielding ourselves from interaction, energetically saying, I don't want to be seen, I don't want to feel, I need the world to go quiet. And while that may be useful during occasional seasons of high stress or grief, making it your nightly default builds a habitual resistance to opportunity. The lungs, compressed under the body's full weight, cannot expand deeply. The heart, sandwiched between the bed and your own torso, pulses against pressure rather than openness. The stomach, our core energetic fire for transformation and will, becomes suppressed both physically and energetically. And over time, this suppression shows up not just in your posture, but in your posture toward life itself. In working with clients over the years, particularly entrepreneurs or professionals who once soared, but found themselves in periods of inexplicable stagnation, a surprising number reported sleeping exclusively on their stomachs. At first, this seemed like a meaningless detail, but when paired with symptoms like income plateaus, impulse spending, or financial decision fatigue, a pattern began to emerge. Many of these individuals were unconsciously using this posture as a protective shield, not from physical danger, but from the emotional weight of financial guilt, burnout, or the fear of being found out as less successful than they once were. The body, ever intelligent, responds to emotional overexertion by adopting defensive positions. But the tragedy is that what once protected them was now limiting them. The sleep position you take each night becomes a metaphor for your engagement with life. Sleeping on your stomach signals a desire to retreat inward, to shield the heart, to flatten the breath and silence the voice. These may be unconscious gestures, but their consequences are deeply conscious. People who sleep in this position long-term often struggle with inertia. They can think, plan, even dream vividly, but taking action becomes difficult. Money becomes reactive instead of proactive. It's spent to avoid pain, not to pursue value. It moves in bursts, impulsive highs and regretful lows. There's little grounded strategy, only emotional response. And that, energetically, is the signature of a blocked fire center. If you've ever woken from a stomach sleep with a sore jaw, clenched fists, or digestive discomfort, your body is already telling you what your mind hasn't yet admitted. This posture compresses not only blood flow, but your qi blueprint. And when your core meridians are numbed every night, your days cannot carry full vitality. But the solution isn't radical. The shift begins with gentle acknowledgement. Transitioning away from stomach sleeping doesn't mean you have to suddenly learn to lie flat on your back like a monk in meditation. Instead, begin by introducing a body pillow along one side. This encourages a transition towards side sleeping, a more receptive posture that maintains emotional safety while relieving internal pressure. If side sleeping feels awkward, try elevating the torso slightly with a wedge pillow to ease the shift. Even changing the angle by 15 degrees can open up the heart and belly centers enough to begin restoring the natural flow of qi. It's important to approach this transition not as punishment for bad sleep, but as an act of realignment with your own life force. You're not just changing posture, you're changing energy. You're reclaiming space for the breath to expand, for the heart to lead, and for the gut to ignite again with purposeful fire. One breath at a time, one night at a time, you begin signaling to your deeper self, I am safe to receive. I no longer need to shield. I trust the life I'm building, and I allow it to meet me halfway. To reinforce this intention, you might also consider placing a soft object near your sleeping space, something symbolic of protection without suppression. A carved piece of jade, a silk pouch of cinnamon and cloves, or even a small picture of a mountain landscape to symbolize internal strength and resilience. These are not charms, they are reminders. Reminders that your body is not just flesh, it's a messenger. And how you treat it, especially in its most vulnerable state, during sleep, shapes the level of abundance and clarity you carry into your waking hours. There is no wealth without energy, no clarity without breath, and no momentum without internal expansion. If your financial life feels stalled, stagnant, or stifled, don't just look at your bank statement. Look at your sleeping body, listen to what it's saying, and let the night become not a place of collapse, but a space of quiet transformation. 3. Sleeping with your back to the door. Sleeping with your back to the door is more than just an architectural compromise. It is a symbolic decision, whether conscious or not, that speaks volumes about your relationship with trust, alertness, and personal power. In Feng Shui, this is one of the most discussed misalignments in a sleeping space, and not without reason. The door in any room is the portal through which qi or life energy enters. It represents opportunity, connection, support, and at times challenge. When your back faces this entrance throughout the most vulnerable hours of your day, during sleep, you unconsciously remove yourself from participation in your own protection and reception. You place your body in a position where it cannot see what is coming, which over time builds a habit of disengagement and mistrust. While this might seem overly poetic to some, the psychological and energetic effects are deeply real and widely reported. From an evolutionary standpoint, the back is the least protected area of the body. Animals in nature always rest in positions where they have visual command of their surroundings. This instinct has not disappeared in humans. It's simply been overridden by modern design constraints or aesthetic choices. But our bodies know. They feel the tension of exposure. They hold subtle vigilance in the spine, in the shoulder blades, in the back of the skull. And when that vigilance becomes chronic, even during sleep, it translates into restlessness, fragmentation of thought, shallow recovery, and over time, a sense that life is pushing past you rather than flowing to you. Clients who report waking up still tired or feeling unexplainably irritable or closed off in the mornings often sleep in this position. It may not seem consequential, but night after night, the message becomes reinforced. I do not need to see what's coming. I do not want to know. I'll just get through it. That's not a posture of prosperity, that's a posture of survival. The symbolic rejection of support occurs when you position yourself to never face incoming chi. Whether it's opportunity, insight, or literal interaction, the energy that should replenish you is being left behind. Your back turns to it, literally and metaphorically, and in doing so, you unconsciously reject the very things you say you want. It's like declaring a goal but muting the phone when the call comes. The support cannot reach you. You are not facing the flow. Now, of course, not everyone has the privilege of designing their bedroom from scratch. Small apartments, shared homes, and rental layouts often dictate less than ideal bed placement. But this is where the art of energetic correction comes into play. If your bed must face away from the door, Feng Shui offers a simple, graceful solution: the use of a mirror. Not a large, glaring slab of glass above your headboard that would cause more harm than good, but a subtle, angled mirror placed at the bedside, positioned so that when lying down, you can see the door's reflection without strain. This small adjustment does more than restore visual awareness. It restores energetic participation. It tells your subconscious, I see, I am aware, I am present. Over the years, many financially successful individuals who began life with very little often speak about how hyper-attuned they became to their surroundings, not from paranoia but from necessity. And later in life, they maintain that awareness as a tool of alignment, not fear. Oprah Winfrey once said that her home must rise up to meet her, and this includes the bedroom. She doesn't just decorate for beauty, she curates for energetic support. This is the mindset shift. It's not about how the room looks, it's about how it behaves, and more importantly, how it invites you to behave. Energetically speaking, facing the door while sleeping fosters a subtle readiness to meet life's offerings. It doesn't mean you're always on edge. It means your awareness remains open. You are allowing life to approach you while maintaining your ground. This state of openness, combined with calm vigilance, is the very foundation of wise financial growth. Those who are energetically aligned often report an increase in synchronicities, calls at the right time, ideas that land in the morning, insights that feel like intuition. But these aren't random. They are the result of creating a body and space that says, I'm available. To test this in your own life, spend a week observing how your sleep affects your morning. Do you wake up ready or resistant? Do you feel like the day is entering you, or are you waiting for it to pass? The mirror, the slight bed shift, the conscious placement of a protective object at the foot of the bed, all these small acts build a ritual of realignment. And remember, support isn't just emotional, it's energetic. Financial windfalls, helpful introductions, moments of clarity, these are all forms of support, but they only find their way to people who are willing to face them. The bed is not just where you sleep, it's where you rehearse your relationship with power, trust, and readiness. Turning your back to the door may feel innocent, but in energetic terms it says, I'm not ready. With one mirror, one shift in orientation, you can say something new, something truer, something that welcomes what you've been preparing for all along. 4. Facing a mirror at night. Sleeping with a mirror facing the bed may seem like a design choice rooted in aesthetics or spatial convenience. But from an energetic standpoint, it introduces a profound layer of interference. Mirrors are powerful amplifiers. In classical Feng Shui, they are tools to redirect, multiply, and reflect qi. But this quality, when uncontrolled, can create chaos, particularly in the space meant for restoration. The bedroom is intended to be a sanctuary of consolidation. It is where we unplug from the world, where we retreat from the complexity of external demands and process our internal states. When a mirror faces the bed directly, however, this sacred pause becomes disrupted. The energy that should slow down, settle, and integrate becomes fractured. Sleep becomes shallower. The mind stays engaged longer than it should. Dreams feel restless. The nervous system struggles to fully descend. In my years consulting with clients navigating financial turmoil, a curious pattern emerged. Those who reported multiple unfinished ventures, Investments started and stopped, jobs left abruptly, budgets abandoned mid-month, frequently had a mirror placed across from their bed. They didn't think much of it. It had always been there, or it reflected a nice light, or made the room feel bigger. But mirrors do not simply reflect light. They reflect energy. And when your body is resting in front of one, that reflection does not turn off. The energetic body, known in Eastern philosophies as the subtle body, continues to interact with that mirrored field. Instead of consolidating your own energy, your system starts duplicating it. It's like a computer running extra tabs while trying to shut down. You enter a half-resting state, never quite deep, never quite resolved. In Buddhist-aligned energy work, clarity is one of the cornerstones of right action. To make clean financial decisions, you need inner stillness. But when a mirror fractures your energetic field during sleep, that stillness is compromised. You may find yourself doubting your decisions the next day, rethinking plans, needing constant external validation. This is not coincidence. The physical space is imprinting onto your mental rhythm. A mirror facing the bed also disrupts what energy practitioners refer to as the sleeping field, the subtle boundary your body generates when it fully enters the rest state. Think of it like a cocoon, necessary for cellular repair, emotional integration, and energetic recalibration. Introducing a mirror into that field is like poking holes into that cocoon. It makes you more receptive to external chai, to noise, to flickers of light, into the repeated energetic echo of your own movements. This feedback loop is unnatural during sleep. It turns inward focus into external chatter. For those who are highly sensitive, creatives, entrepreneurs, spiritual seekers, this setup can be particularly disruptive. These individuals already have heightened perception and tend to process energy more subtly. A mirror at night becomes a relentless whisper in their sensory field, pulling attention outward when the spirit wants to go inward. There's also an emotional symbolism to consider. Mirrors invite the gaze. They reflect identity. To face yourself constantly, even when unconscious, can provoke subconscious judgment. It might feel like your inner critic never sleeps, because energetically, it doesn't. Thankfully, the remedy is both simple and effective. Cover the mirror with a cloth at night. Choose a natural fabric, cotton, linen, or silk, preferably in a calming tone like beige, soft gray, or dark blue. This physical gesture creates an energetic boundary. It tells your subtle body, now is the time for privacy, for integration, for quiet. If you're able to, reposition the mirror entirely. Place it on a wall that does not reflect the bed, especially not the head or foot. In Feng Shui, mirrors can enhance a space, but their placement must respect function. A mirror in the dining area may double abundance. In a hallway, it may extend opportunity. But in a bedroom, its placement must be restrained. Let the energy settle. Let the self dissolve into rest. Interestingly, some of the world's most influential figures in creative industries have developed sleep environments free of visual stimulation entirely. Steve Jobs, for example, was known to sleep in an almost monastic room. Minimal furniture, no visible electronics, and certainly no mirrors. He understood, perhaps instinctively, that genius needs a blank slate to renew itself overnight. That kind of mental clarity requires energetic discipline. I've walked into countless bedrooms where clients say, I can't figure out why I wake up tired, or I'm doing all the right things, but something still feels off. And often, without even analyzing their finances, I already have a clue. There's a mirror reflecting their bed. We can chase external solutions for years, new strategies, new tools, even new goals. But if the space where we surrender each night continues to fracture our energy, we never consolidate the strength to move forward clearly. There is a quiet power in respecting the energy of sleep, turning off devices, dimming the lights, slowing the breath. These are all foundational. But so too is clearing the visual noise. A mirror might help during the day. At night, it must be silenced. 5. Sleeping near financial weight, there's an invisible heaviness that too many people sleep beside without realizing the toll it takes. Not a person, not a worry, but an object. A wallet, a pile of unpaid bills, a laptop still logged into your bank account, or a folder marked taxes sitting just feet from your pillow. These seemingly harmless items do more than occupy space. They transmit energy, they hold memory, they pulse with the frequency of financial tension, and when left too close during sleep, they unconsciously tether the body to scarcity cycles, even while the mind is supposed to be at rest. In traditional Feng Shui, the bedroom is considered a sanctuary of yin energy, a space devoted to healing, reflection, and internal cultivation. It is not a problem-solving arena, it is not a negotiation room, and it is certainly not meant to be a vault for the most triggering symbols of modern life. Your wallet, whether thick or thin, doesn't just hold cash and cards. It holds patterns, it holds decisions, it holds stories of what you've earned, what you've lost for, what you fear you'll never reclaim. Sleeping next to it, even unknowingly, keeps those stories alive in the subtle fields of your awareness. Your subconscious, tasked with organizing the inner world while your body sleeps, now has to digest more than dreams. It has to metabolize money shame, or anxiety, or hopes tied too tightly to metrics that don't define you. Financial documents, bills, statements, loan agreements are not inert. They carry energetic imprint. Every overdue notice you've looked at, every receipt you saved out of fear rather than clarity, leaves behind a subtle emotional trace. When these items live near your sleep space, they do more than clutter your room. They anchor your nervous system in a low hum of activation. You may not wake up screaming, but you might wake up foggy or irritated or feeling inexplicably behind before the day has even begun. I've seen this pattern repeat in households across income levels. A CEO with a corner office keeps his briefcase under the bed. A teacher grades papers on her mattress, her purse full of receipts by her feet. A freelancer stacks unpaid invoices on her nightstand, so I don't forget. But here's the truth, your spirit doesn't forget. It's listening all the time. And when you feed it worry disguised as paperwork, it begins to confuse rest with resistance. That's why I urge this. Move financial respite away from where you sleep. Create a simple rule, nothing related to money or decisions within arm's reach of your bed. Not under it, not on the nightstand, not in the drawer where you keep your journal or your face cream. Find a designated space in another room, a shelf, a drawer, a locked box even. It's not about hiding from responsibility, it's about honoring your need for energetic clarity. The moment you begin sleeping beside only symbols of peace, like a flower, a crystal, or a meaningful book, you will feel the shift, and your decisions during the day will reflect the inner expansion created during the night. This brings me to a story I've always found quietly powerful. During the early years of his career, Keanu Reeves, despite his growing fame, chose to live in small, sparsely furnished apartments. It wasn't about lack, it was about intention. One of his former assistants once shared that Keanu kept his sleeping space remarkably clear. No electronics near the pillow, no paperwork in the room. His mattress always faced a clear, open path. When asked why, he reportedly said, "I need my mind to be calm when I dream." That simplicity, that conscious design became part of the reason why he maintained his inner stillness amidst a world that constantly pulled at him. In a field as chaotic and externally defined as Hollywood, Keanu found quiet. He built it, night by night, room by room. That's not just a celebrity anecdote. That's a blueprint. We don't all need the same architecture, but we do need the same principle. Protect your restoration space. Choose what you let follow you into sleep. And when it comes to wealth, respect its weight by giving it boundaries. You don't have to sleep beside it to stay responsible. You have to sleep apart from it to stay sovereign. Let your bed be a place of peace, not a negotiation table. Let your wallet rest far enough away that your energy is not still rehearsing your net worth while your eyes are closed. Because true wealth begins not with more income, but with better alignment. Aligning for abundance. 3. Sleep configurations that activate energy flow. 1. Sleep on your back with arms and legs relaxed. The most restorative sleep position in Feng Shui isn't just about posture, it's about participation. When you sleep flat on your back with your arms resting gently at your sides and your legs soft, you're not simply lying down. You're engaging in a full-body gesture of trust. This is the posture of openness, alignment, and energetic invitation. In traditional energy systems, this shape mirrors what's often referred to as the heaven posture, a position in which the front of the body, where most of our vital organs live, is unguarded. The chest, the belly, the throat, all exposed. And while this may seem vulnerable, it's actually a profound signal to the universe. I'm not defending, I'm receiving. Energetically, sleeping in this position allows chi to circulate along its natural meridians without obstruction. The limbs aren't twisted or compressed. The breath can move freely. The spine rests in a neutral state, letting the nervous system unwind fully. In Feng Shui terms, this is a water and earth balance posture, receptive like a still lake, grounded like a mountain. This posture is especially beneficial during periods of financial reset, when you're rebuilding after a loss, recovering from burnout, or entering a new phase of wealth creation that requires clarity and patience. Think of it as laying yourself across an invisible blueprint. When the body lies in symmetry, the mind begins to reorder. When the mind reorders, your outer actions follow. And when your actions align, your outcomes shift. There's a quiet dignity to this posture. Unlike the fetal position, which compresses chi and often mirrors emotional retreat, lying on your back with softness and ease tells your body that it's safe to expand again, safe to imagine more, safe to allow the future in. To deepen this practice, I often recommend placing a small grounding object near the bed, a bowl of sea salt, a piece of hematite, or a polished stone that resonates with your current journey. These objects aren't talismans, they're companions. They help absorb mental noise, settle scattered thoughts, and root your energy gently back into the body. When paired with the right posture, they act as stabilizers, subtle, silent, but incredibly effective. What's remarkable is that you don't have to hold or touch them. Just their presence near your energetic field while you sleep reminds the subconscious that it's okay to let go. That stability is here, that the weight of past financial worry doesn't need to follow you into your dreams. I once consulted with a small business owner who had been going through a turbulent period, delayed payments, unexpected expenses, and a sense of perpetual catch-up. She told me she was waking up exhausted every morning, even after 8 hours of sleep. When I asked about her sleep environment, she mentioned she slept curled on her side, gripping a pillow with her phone beside her face and unopened mail near her headboard. We made a few simple shifts, removed the financial clutter from the bedroom, moved the phone out of reach, and encouraged her to adopt a back sleeping posture with a grounding stone by her nightstand. Within 3 weeks, her energy returned. She described it as waking up inside her life again. Nothing dramatic changed outside, but her clarity, confidence, and ability to plan long-term returned. This is the quiet power of sleeping in alignment. It doesn't promise lottery wins or instant windfalls, but it builds the internal spaciousness required for lasting wealth. Because prosperity is not only about how much you hold, but how you hold it. Are you tense? Are you bracing? Or are you allowing? Try it tonight. Set yourself up for stillness. Open your chest, unclench your fists, place your grounding item where it can do its work, and rest, not as escape, but as an act of preparation. Because true wealth doesn't chase, it arrives where there's room. 2. Sleep on the left side. Among the subtle arts of sleeping well, direction and side matter more than most people realize. While sleep posture often gets reduced to a matter of comfort or spinal support, energetic principles see it as a nightly ritual of alignment, a moment when your body, mind, and chi recalibrate for the day ahead. And sleeping on your left side carries a very specific message to the energy field. I'm ready to process, receive, and restore. Let's begin with the physiology. Across several traditional medicine systems, including Ayurveda and Chinese 5-element theory, the left side of the body is linked to the yin aspect of our energy. Yin is inward, cooling, and receptive. It's the realm of digestion, absorption, and internal transformation. Sleeping on the left side helps align your internal organs with gravitational flow, especially the stomach and lymphatic system. This isn't folklore. It's been observed that left side sleeping supports better elimination, cleaner lymph drainage, and less nighttime hard strain. But from a Feng Shui perspective, the left side holds deeper resonance. The left represents intuitive reception. It governs how we take in, not just food, but emotion, insight, and subtle energetic cues. In a world that often prizes doing over being, ambition over reflection, left side sleeping brings the nervous system into a more balanced field of energetic processing. I often recommend this posture for individuals with strong fire or wood energy in their chart or personality. Those who are driven, passionate, constantly in motion. These are the people who wake up already sprinting mentally. Their ideas are fast, their goals are bold, but they rarely give themselves the pause required to integrate. Sleeping on the left side allows their body to rest without shutting down their internal flow. It's the energetic equivalent of digesting their ambition, so it doesn't burn them out from within. In Buddhist aligned symbolism, the left side also represents compassion and inner sight. When monks rest, their robes naturally fall to the left, covering the heart, grounding the spirit. In this tradition, the left is not weak, it is wise. It is the side that listens before it speaks. To deepen this practice, you can place a grounding object near your right hand, such as a small wood carving, a piece of rose quartz, or even a silk cloth soaked lightly in essential oil. This creates a subtle, energetic arc. Receptive left side down, expressive right side softened. You're symbolically saying, I'm releasing control. I'm trusting that the work I've done will integrate through stillness. I once worked with a creative director in his 40s who told me he felt creatively bloated. His words, not mine. He had no shortage of ideas, but none of them were landing. He'd journal late into the night, stare at the ceiling, scroll through articles, and still wake up foggy. His bed faced west, his sleep posture was stomach down, with his head turned sharply right, and his body, unsurprisingly, felt like it was in survival mode. We made one small change, encouraged left side sleeping with a jade palm stone held gently in his right hand. The result? Within 2 weeks, he said his dreams began shifting. They weren't chaotic anymore. It's like my brain finally trusts the night again, he said. There's a quiet lesson there. So many people think wealth is about waking earlier, doing more, forcing momentum. But sometimes the most powerful change you can make happens at night, in silence, in softness, in trusting the left side of your body to do what it's always known how to do: receive, digest, and renew. Try this tonight. Lie on your left, place your right hand over your belly or your heart. Breathe slow, not to fall asleep faster, but to rest more fully, to honor the part of you that doesn't need to achieve to be valuable, that doesn't need to produce in order to be worthy, that already knows the rhythm of enoughness. Because sometimes the real invitation isn't to chase the future, but to lie still enough that it can find you. 3. Head facing favorable elemental direction. The direction your head faces while you sleep is one of the most overlooked, yet quietly influential factors in energetic alignment. We often spend hours arranging our desks, choosing wall colors, or placing crystals with care. But the very position of your head for 6 to 8 hours each night, that subtle compass setting sends a powerful message to the chi around you. This isn't superstition, it's geometry in service of energy. In classical Feng Shui and 5-element theory, each direction correlates with specific elemental energies. And aligning your crown and subconscious toward those elements can either nourish your life path or slowly weaken it. Let's break it down, not as a rigid rule, but as an invitation to experiment, especially if you've been feeling off in your progress, financial stability, or mental clarity. For those with dominant wood or fire energy, people who are fast-moving, future-focused, entrepreneurial, or expressive, the East and Southeast are your friends. East is the direction of the rising sun, associated with new beginnings, vision, and upward growth. Southeast carries wealth chi connected to progress and external recognition. Facing these directions as you sleep aligns your internal state with outward flow. It can amplify career momentum, social visibility, and creative productivity. you're literally turning your head toward dawn. If your energy skews toward earth or metal, those who value stability, reflection, long-term building, or analytical strength, then west and southwest will serve you better. West governs endings, maturity, and clarity of legacy. Southwest governs relationships, nourishment, in the soil from which abundance grows. People aligned with earth metal energy often excel in slow compounding growth. Think investors, strategists, healers, and those who manage resources. Sleeping toward the west softens urgency and replaces it with precision. And if your dominant energy is water, the deep thinkers, the spiritual seekers, the ones who often find themselves navigating uncertainty, then true north is your anchor. North governs wisdom, solitude, and inner power. It's not always flashy, but it builds resilience over time. If you're in a season of reinvention, healing, or stepping back from burnout, head toward the north. It's where the stillness gathers strength. Now, a quick but important note. You don't need to rearrange your entire bedroom. Sometimes even a 15 to 30 degree shift in head orientation, placing a pillow slightly diagonally, or turning your mattress, can begin the energetic recalibration. I've seen people report a notable improvement in sleep quality, clarity, or decision-making within just 2 weeks of adjusting their sleeping direction. One client of mine, a retired architect in his 60s, was struggling with recurring dreams about past financial loss. After mapping his home's energetic grid and realigning his bed toward the southwest, his supportive earth direction, his dreams shifted. "Now I dream of building again," he told me. That subtle change gave his subconscious permission to release regret and begin envisioning new structures. Not just in architecture, but in life. Use a compass app. Take a quiet moment this evening to stand where your head usually rests. Observe what direction it faces. Then ask yourself, does that direction support where I'm going, or is it still echoing where I've been? The earth turns whether or not we pay attention, but when we choose to align with it, deliberately, with curiosity and care, something in us shifts. Sleep becomes more than rest. It becomes ritual. And in that ritual, we stop just surviving the night and begin planting seeds for the morning. Final sleep is not just repair, it's resonance. Each night, your body isn't merely resting, it's recalibrating. In silence and darkness and stillness, you are in dialogue with the field of energy around you. The way you position your body, the objects near your bed, the direction you face, all of it sends a signal, and life listens. If your posture curls inward, if you sleep beside bills, screens, or unresolved weight, the message is clear. I don't feel safe. I don't believe I can rest. I'm bracing. And what we brace against, we often invite again. But if your sleep posture opens gently, if the energy around your bed feels intentional, if you fall asleep with the quiet trust of a body in harmony with space, something shifts. You begin to attract the kind of opportunities that don't demand burnout to receive. Decisions become clearer. Money feels less like struggle and more like stewardship. Momentum becomes natural, not forced. And here's the truth I've learned after studying energy for decades. Real transformation doesn't require a dramatic move. Sometimes it begins with a pillow placed with care, a mirror covered at night, a wallet moved out of reach. Small gestures that tell the universe, I am no longer operating from fear. I am aligned with what I want to welcome. So tonight, just before you lie down, pause for one breath. Stand beside your bed. Feel the energy of the space that holds your sleeping body. And gently ask, is this bed a reflection of where I've been or a signal of where I'm going? Then change one thing, not everything, just one. Because alignment doesn't begin with vision boards or financial plans. It begins where your head rests, where your breath softens, where the body lets go. If this message helped you see your sleep space with new eyes, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me which alignment shift you'll try first. Share this video with someone who's quietly building a better chapter. And subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We're almost at 2,000 followers, and your presence helps us continue creating thoughtful, grounded content that speaks not just to the mind, but to the space we live in. Sleep isn't the end of your day. It's the soft beginning of everything you're becoming.